Welcome to the FPL USA Press Play Podcast. Time to lock back in. It has been a long time without the Premier League action, as it's been a weekend filled of FA Cup taking the center stage, and right now we're in the midst of some European tournament action. We got a barnstormer of an episode here. I'm Bucks, one of the co-hosts. I'm more of the wild child of this podcast, but we are joined by the best manager, my co-host. He's the best by a long shot of the three co-hosts this season on the podcast. I'm turning it over to you, Brian. Don't walk down that red carpet and trip, please.
I'm ready to collect my my Emmy, my Oscar nomination, whatever you have for me, Bucks, for this season. I'm hunting trophies, baby. I'm trophy hunting this season, so hopefully I'm going to be at the top of a few mini leagues. But we had some carnage as a lot of Premier League teams are hunting for their FA Cup trophy, and lots to dive into. But before I jump the gun there, we want to welcome one of our mates from Down Under, Peter from the @FPL SideNet podcast. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to join you from the other side of the world, the upside down, and a little bit of confusion from my end with the time difference, but we got there and we're here, and everyone's repping blue, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, we're working through it. Some technical difficulties with the time difference, but I like that you say it's the upside down, because I feel like in many ways America is either bottoms up or upside down right now. And I know my FPL season is for sure all the way upside down. It might even be hanging by a toe, 6 feet under, based on my current rank. But we won't bore you with that just yet. First, let's get to know our guest. I know we've had a couple of guests on from outside of the hashtag FPL USA community. But Peter, we've been fangirling on some of the work you've been doing down under. Brian was introduced to you through friend of the program, FPL Mez 8. Mira, thank you for the connection here. So Peter, we want to get to know you a little better, but so do the listeners in the hashtag FPL USA community. So tell us a little bit about your podcast, your FPL journey, how long you've been playing, just kind of some notable stuff we should know about you.
Yeah, well, first of all, I am one of two hosts of the FPL SideNet podcast. I do that with my great friend Andrew, who lives in Sydney. And we've been doing that together now for 3 years, but the show's been going for about 5. So it's been an interesting journey where I started the show.
You're a veteran.
Yeah, it feels like that sometimes. I'm a little long in the tooth these days, but so we basically, I started the show 5 years ago. Another friend of mine had the concept for the show, and we used to do another football podcast many, many years ago, and always had a little segment about FPL. And we found that the longer we did that show about football, we found more enjoyment talking about FPL. And then the idea came that, hey, if we ever do another podcast, let's just do an FPL one. Back then, there wasn't a lot of FPL content. There was only a few, definitely none here, down under. And that's where it came. And then I ended up doing it solo for a while. And then Andrew jumped on board, and it's been a lot of fun ever since. We're very similar in character and humor and age as well. That probably helps. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride, but I've basically been playing FPL. I think it might be my 17th or 18th season, and all various degrees of seriousness.
Holy shit.
That's more years than Bucks and I combined.
That's
more
amazing.
Years doesn't mean I'm better. I'll state that for the record.
Hey, we'll be the judge of that.
You'd think out of 17 years you had to get lucky at least a few seasons, but that's what I keep telling myself as well.
Yeah, lucky a few times. So, in those, I've probably been taking it a little bit more serious. I think the last 5-6 years, and I've had a couple 10K finishes over the years, and over the last 5, I've been fairly consistent, sort of around the 25, 20K mark, a 10K finish there, and yeah, this season though I've been calling it on our show Peter's season of mediocrity. I'm hovering around the 500,000. I just can't seem to get that leg up. I'm hoping.
Yeah, you and a few other people around here. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I wonder who you're talking about, Mr. Inside the top 5K over there.
Yeah, I'm going to hand over all my login details to Brian, and he can just take control of the rest of my season. I'm going to go on vacay and sing some margaritas by the pool, I think.
The variance has been on my side, but also lucky variance as well. It's all been happening. I've been gotten some good bench jam and all the rest. But yeah, really want to have you on the pod, and I know we have your pod partner at FPL_Point Break. Just want to give him a shout out too. You guys keep the Aussie banter going, so we're excited to have you on, and especially thinking about how your podcast has evolved and how long did you do it solo? Because solo podcasting, whenever Bucks or I are like traveling or have a conflict, we're always like, can we just get somebody else on to talk to? Because the solo pod is hard. So how long did you do that for? And did you enjoy it or did you find it really challenging?
I found the solo pods really challenging. Back then, I think it was about a season and a half of doing solo pods where my mate Dave had to step away from the show, and I was having a lot of fun with it, so I just kept doing it, and that's basically where I started to embrace like linking everything with film. It just sort of gave me a gateway for an episode title. I'd link things to certain films, and that was just sort of like my little niche thing at the start. But yeah, solo pods are hard. I'd basically do the whole, like I'd almost like script out the entire show and just smash it out in 30 minutes. But yeah, getting Andrew on board was great. It's just so much more fun bouncing off other people.
Yeah, it's so true. Having a partner or co-host to banter with makes it a lot more exciting and also unpredictable, which is the whole fun of what we do here. Banging it out in 30 minutes, that's a dream Brian and I have when we do the editing. But yeah, that's the nature of the beast is that when you really love something, you tend to spend a little more time than even the plan would assume. So, best plan is we do 45, maybe an hour, and then almost 2 hours later, we're like, all right, we finally have to end this episode at some point, don't we?
I mean, IRL, I'm lucky if I can bang it out in 3 minutes. Ba-dum-dum.
Oh, my goodness. As you could tell, Peter, Brian's wife is not a frequent listener of the episode. With that, one final question. Now, this is a must for any Aussie that joins the episode. Vegemite. Are good, gross? What's your take? Are you team pro, Marmite, Vegemite, or you kick that right to the curb?
No, I'm anti Vegemite. I've never liked it. I don't like it. My wife likes it. I think she introduced my daughter to it, but she's not a fan of it either. So it's a Vegemite free household here.
It's just
right,
like
Peter,
scraping
I
the
knew
bottom
we bonded,
of
right off the bat.
It's like scraping the bottom of a very old, rusty barrel of beer that's down in the cellar and they bring up to fixing the tap, and it is nasty. You got to put heaps and heaps of butter on there to even make it palpable. I agree. It's not for me. It's not for me. And then they have all these different Vegemite flavored crackers and flavored like ice cream. It's all over the place there. The Aussies they got that on the upside down for some reason.
They're a stronger bunch than us. Let's go to the Game Week 27 recap. Now, you might have forgotten that Game Week 27 happened just under a week ago now. But yes, it has been some time without our precious FPL game. So, Peter, you're the guest. Why don't you kick us off? How did Game Week 27 go for you? Who was your captain? Give us kind of the spark notes on how the game week went for you.
Sure. It was another game week of a very minor green arrow for me. I finished up on 57 points, which was my safety score exactly. A bit of bench jam with Isaac not featuring, but I had the Rodgers 7 points coming off the bench, which was a fantastic addition. Yeah, but I've had Flecken in my side for a number of weeks now, and yeah, unfortunately, he did not keep the clean sheet there with the 3 points. Double Arsenal defense, Timber and Gabriel, which was that did wonders for me. I saw Timber scored this morning in the Champions League. It would have been nice if he did that in game week 27 for me. But a fellow USA man, Jedi Robinson, 0 points, unfortunately. That was a bit disappointing, him getting the yellow card on the substitution appearance. And
hey, we don't stand for slagging Jedi here. He's the best USA player in world football right now. So one demerit to you, Peter.
For the record, I love Jedi Robinson. Anyone that loves Star Wars is a friend of mine. So yeah, that midfield of the Rogers Jam, the Clivett Thunder Bastard from outside the
Oh
box
my goodness.
was beautiful. So the 10 beautiful points there. Embuemo with the 5. Palmer, our boy Cold, stayed cold. Didn't really warm up, so a little bit disappointing there. But I did captain Mo Salah for his assist there, and front line of Wood and Cunha, who's now got a shiny red flag.
Yeah, I'll go next. I am the low man on the totem pole once again. I land on 48 points. This really stops my breakneck February. I had 3 huge green arrows in a row in February. I think I was on like 340 points in the month of February going into this midweek. And 48 points brought me a little bit back down to gravity. Took hold. And I had the cement boots right back on like I have most of the season. So I'm hovering around 620K. I'm trying to figure out any way to be aggressive and salvage my streak of top 100K finishes, but it's looking pretty bleak at this point. But enough about me and my complaining. I'll save the complaints for after a disappointing Chelsea weekend, which thankfully there wasn't. So let's turn it over to you, Brian. Keep the sun shining, whether we're in the States or down under. How did your game week go?
Yeah, similar to Peter, I nailed my safety score right on the head. So 60 points all out. I got a green arrow of 125 places. So I've had a few funny green arrows once you get into the stratosphere of rank where less than 150 kind of rank changes twice recently. So happy about it, though. I got some bench jam as well. I actually put Rogers as my second bench and started Mikolenko in my first bench slot because I didn't know if Rogers was going to play. And honestly, like they had UCL and FA Cup and lots of things. I was like, I don't know, I think Unai might bench him. And lo and behold, Mikolenko comes in with his first real assist in the Premier League in 100 fucking matches. I mean, that is jam. But either way, my first 2 bench guys would have delivered. So comes on for Isak, and just I'm so frustrated with the lack of information that managers have to disclose at pressers. Like nobody knew anything at all about this fucking Isak injury, and he's kind of on the chopping block for me ahead of the blank game week 29. So maybe I would have done something, but in the end, it worked out all right. Clivert 10 was big for me, and then my transfer of the week was actually Jedi Robinson to Munoz. So again, some of our friends in the group chat, they were just calling me the luckiest mother effer because I finally bench Jedi and ship him out of my team after being on him for so long. And then he doesn't start, and then he comes on for a yellow card. And instead, Munoz gets an assist, and he looks prime for game weeks 28 and 29. So 60 points all out, 3.559K or 3.559 overall. So looking good. Poised for a good finish if I don't fucking bottle it, Bucks.
Yeah, the four-digit club that you're in right now, it's looking like you're well and truly on your way to your best ever finish. And now
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not a financial advisor, and Peter, I don't believe you are either, but surely we're in alignment here that we should recommend that Brian just goes out and buys a handful of lottery tickets. Don't you agree? This guy.
If he could tell me the numbers, that would help before the next lottery draw.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, I even brought in Cunha a week early, and I at least got his 9-pointer before he lost his damn mind. So I think let's transition there, Bucks, and talk about some of the results from the FA Cup. Truly bizarre to have a week off of FPL, but then to have so much carnage in our FPL teams at the same time. And we're not even through both days of Champions League. So let's break down a few of the happenings, especially in the forward line. We're seeing these guys drop like flies.
Yeah, the schedule right now at this point in the season is at a truly wacky level. I mean, we have this midweek, there's European competition, then there's game week 28. There's a big blank game week that I think is going to be on a lot of engaged FPL managers' mind in 29. And then there's an international break. So it's like, hurry up and wait. because this is a major inflection point. This is kind of all in, push the chips to the middle of the table time in the season. But with that being said, the FA Cup was not kind to most FPL managers. I mean, we saw Cunha. I think you just referenced him, Brian. He absolutely just was unhinged. He lost his damn mind playing against the Cherries in extra time. He gets his second red card for aggressive conduct, for violent conduct of the season. And what that means is he's at minimum going to miss the next 3 matches. But it could honestly be a longer suspension. So stay tuned. We will give you updates there. But this
Bucks,
is
what's
really
going on with this guy? He wakes up with his hot Brazilian piss and he thinks he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter instead of a striker on Wolverhampton. Like, I don't understand.
Shocked Peter with that. He was not prepared for that level of Brazilian banter.
He scores a fucking worldie, like, to draw the match level, and then continues to play another 60 minutes and just, fighting with people, headbutting, shoving. Yeah, it's just such a talent, but such a hothead. Like, somebody needs to get through to this guy that he needs to get his shit in order, because the whole team, they have multiple matches against relegation side players and teams coming up here. And now they're not going to have their best asset at Wolverhampton. So shout out to Dan. I hope your sphincter isn't too tight, but it's going to be lemon booty time, because you're going to be a little nervy going in a few of these matches.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Brian, that slab of the next 4 fixtures for Wolves had been one that many managers had been targeting for quite a while. Like myself, I bought Cunha in a few weeks ago. Also lucky to get that 9 points, and now got a headache with what to do with that position. And I'm fortunate enough that I don't have Mateta, but there'll be so managers out there looking at just a whole front line of flags in their side. And I don't know what Cunha did to Kirkes as well, because I've seen photos today of Kirkes in training. He shaved his mullet. And anyone that knows Australians, we love a mullet. And so to see that, I'm shook. I don't know the effects of Cunha getting into Kirkes' head.
Yeah, and it was honestly the most entertaining of all the FA Cup matches. But the real brutal part is not only is Cunha the clear best player on Wolves, he's their talisman. For FPL, he is the number 1 bonus point magnet. He gets a return. Maybe not even Mo Salah has the same control over FPL towers to just guarantee that he gets the 3 bonus points anytime he does anything. He could just smile at the camera in celebrating for Wolves, and he's still getting those 3 bonus points. And like you both mentioned, the Wolves fixture run coming up: Everton at home, Southampton away, West Ham at home, Ipswich away, Spurs at home. Pretty much each of those games is essentially a 6-point match when you look at the bottom half of that table, and specifically relegation zone, because Wolves are not safe by any means at this point in time. And if they're going to be without their best player for some of these key matches before their really difficult end of the season run-in, it could not be any worse time for Wolves fans like Dan. So just shout out, Dan. We hope your health is going well, and we hope Wolves can still pull out a couple points here and there. Maybe not everywhere, because without Cunha, I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about Cunha later in our #FPL community questions section. And Peter and I, Bucks, do you have him as well in your squad?
Of course. I did not get those 9 points. Let me tell you, guys. Really nice of you to pour a whole jug of Himalayan salt on my open wound there, but I appreciate it. And I don't have any transfers banked, so that's a real double banana peel for me. But let's transition. Let's talk about the player Peter just shouted out. That's Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's been leading the line absolutely in fuego for Crystal Palace the last run of games. And Millwall did what Millwall do, and they brought the hooliganism. This time it wasn't in the stands. It was on the pitch. Their goalkeeper thought he was in Mortal Kombat 2, and he just studs up, kicked Mateta straight in the face. I mean, he completely missed the ball by a country mile. So shout out to Mateta. He seems like he's okay. He's already messaging on socials that he's recovering nicely in the hospital, but he's been ruled out definitively for game week 28. and they blank in 29. So Mateta is definitely a player that should be on a lot of Engage managers' watch list, but he's going to miss one of those cupcake fixtures in 28 that I know a lot of managers, specifically those that are free hitting in 29, have him in place for these fixtures in 28 and 30. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been avoiding Crystal Palace up until last week when I finally brought Munoz in, but the blank has just put me off. And now Mateta, who has had 6 goals in 6 matches, and I think chipped in an assist during that time frame, he's going to miss this cupcake fixture. Then he blanks and then has Southampton. So very, very, very tough right now for Mateta owners. So Mateta is, again, in a spot where you're going to have to move him out because concussion protocols, I'm not entirely sure how it works in the Premier League in terms of like being cleared for that. But this kick, even if he had a helmet on, like a motorcycle helmet, he still would have had his brain rattled from this kick. And it was pretty crazy to see on social. Like originally, who was the ref for that one, Bucks? He didn't call it as a on card or on field yellow card. And
Yeah,
so
Michael Oliver, he's been
yeah, what the
suspended
fuck?
because he
How
didn't.
does he miss that?
And he was like 5 yards away. I mean, Peter, I'm pretty sure, I don't know what your daughter or wife's level of engagement is, but when I showed my wife the replay, she was like, that can't be legal. I was like, yeah, babe, you're right.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
All forms of assault on the football field there. And yeah, sort of shades of Cantona. But rather than kicking someone in the chest, he's gone to the head. But yeah, poor Mateta. I have no idea how long it takes to recover from a lacerated ear, but 25 stitches, nasty. I'd be banking that Mateta would definitely not be featuring this week. And that's basically what Glasner said post-match. I think they're sort of planning just to give him space.
Yeah, but fortunately, game week 30 is not till pretty much like
April,
middle of April. I mean, it's like so far from now. So he can borrow Evander Holyfield's ear and just sew that guy on the other side so he has a matching pair. And I think he'll be totally fine come game week 30. More concerning on the forward line is Alexander Isak. He's been arguably one of the best strikers in the world, not just the Premier League, the last couple months. He was seen limping off the pitch after being rested for an injury that was, of course, not reported because liar, Eddie Howe's pants are on fire doesn't tell us shit. So he was missing in 27. I know my sense is he's going to play in 28. Do you guys disagree? You on the same page? Where you stand there?
I mean, it's tough, right? Like they have the who cares about cup final versus Liverpool with no Anthony Gordon either. So I guess we're going to see Harvey Barnes start on the left, Isak up top, and then Jacob Murphy on the right in that cup final versus Liverpool in game week 29. So, I mean, kind of want to hold him with a grain of salt, really. Like if you have multiple transfers and you want to get off of him for this match, he could be rested. But most FPL managers should have a bench player to come in. So you definitely want to prioritize moving off of Cunha or moving off of the likes of Mateta first, and then just hope that Isak plays because West Ham away is a decent fixture. And like in him limping off, he had scored, I think, a penalty. He had another great goal that was just marginally offside. Like he's still in great form. So, I'm not too worried. But the other moment in this match of madness was Anthony Gordon. What is he doing at the end of the match as well? I'm checking FootMob this whole time, scrolling my phone while I was working on some house projects. I wasn't tuned in to the matches, taking a weekend off. And yeah, just out of nowhere, he also picks up a freaking red card for no reason. And he's got to be really, really disappointed with himself. I'm sure all of the fans of Newcastle are just irate with him to miss that final versus Liverpool. So, yeah,
and he's a Liverpool fan. He grew up he's from Liverpool area originally, so definitely
behind enemy lines is what you're saying.
Yeah, he
right there,
gets
Bucks.
to stick it in his home team. Peter, you have Isak in your team. What do you think? You think Newcastle are going to be able to stay competitive the next couple matches? Maybe missing some of their key pieces.
I'm a little bit concerned with Newcastle at the moment. Now, I am a Isak owner. I do intend to start him in this game because I just know Eddie Howe's not going to tell us anything more than
Yeah, good
we'll
on
have
you.
to
I
wait and
think you should
see,
start.
or he's touch and go. So to me, I might as well just play him, see what happens there. But I am worried that Howe is going to be keeping his eye firmly on that League Cup final. That's the fixture they're targeting. So if there's any worries, I'm a little concerned Isak may get a rest, but I'm hoping he does feature here. But yeah, just a terrible weekend for Newcastle. Like you mentioned, the Gordon red card for just, lashing out at Van Hecker, who's, fastly turning into a bit of a troll in the Premier League, taking that mantelpiece off Neil Maupay for Brighton. And like Hall didn't feature. He's not even expected to be fit possibly for the League Cup final. Joe Linton was back, which was a great sign for Newcastle because he makes that midfield tick so much more. But yeah, I think they're still missing Botman. He doesn't seem ready, but yeah, it's a little bit concerning from a Newcastle perspective.
Yeah, Hall
Yeah,
got
Lewis.
injured in the pre-match warm-ups, and Trippier also injured his back.
Mm.
So the injuries are mounting at a very inopportune time for the Gordies, to say the least. One last one we should shout out, Kairu Matoma also had to limp off with an injury. He is added to Tyreek Lamptey, who also seemed to have to miss that game with another injury. So the FA Cup was pure carnage and chaos this weekend. So it was nice for once to not get a red arrow from that chaos. I know I'm just speaking for myself here.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you were a owner who was going to free hit in playing game week 29 and you had Mateta, Isak, Gordon, Hall. Like, these are all popular assets that are featuring in FPL managers' teams. And now you are just in an absolute disastrous moment to have to not only potentially free hit and then also remove these players. So Hall is ruled out of the Carabao Cup final. So we're going to wait to hear more information on him. So, I mean, from a long view perspective, I really hope that he's back for double game week 32 when they will play, I believe, Crystal Palace and another team, Manchester United, at home for both of those fixtures. I was hoping to have him in my side. So fingers crossed that he'll make a recovery there because he offers a lot more attacking potential than the likes of Livermento or whoever else you might fit in your back line for double game week 32.
Peter, any closing thoughts before we take our first break?
No, just yeah, hope that's just we pray to the gods, Eddie Howe, Jason Tyndall, that Isak will be fit for this game week.
Yeah, tell us, you blimey fuckers.
I'm going to be on that pew next to you on my knees praying that none of our Liverpool assets get hurt tomorrow in their first leg of Champions League. We're recording this podcast on Tuesday night in America, so we have yet to see the likes of Liverpool play against PSG in the first leg. So if we get a Trent injury or a Salah injury, we're going to be in all sorts, especially just seeing the chaos across the timeline.
Of course, you would even speak that into existence. Golly. Let's take our first break. Let's cleanse the juju. When we come back, we'll preview the action in game week 28.
And we are back. Let's find the best matches to target for FPL hauls. And of course, this features a juicy fixture with Southampton playing at Liverpool. I think the main question here is how many minutes are the likes of Trent, Gakpo, and obviously Salah going to play after a PSG first leg on Wednesday? You have to assume that Salah starts, right, Peter?
Yeah, Salah's just a mentality monster. He's chasing down records. He's averaging a double attacking return nearly every single game weekend. Yeah, the man just wants to play. The man just wants to score. And the slight concern is that this fixture is sort of in the middle of four important games for Liverpool, where they've got the PSG home and away fixtures. They've got the League Cup final. This is, by all concern, their least of their worries. And we've seen numerous teams this season treat Southampton like they're playing a League 3 side in a League Cup fixture where they just mass rotate. We are hoping that from a fantasy perspective, Salah gets all the business done early, double attack and return in the first half, and then it's come off 60 minutes, bank a clean sheet bonus as well, and hopefully we get lots of attacking returns.
It's hard to look
Yeah, I
past
agree.
him for captaincy, right? It's still,
Yeah.
We got lucky last week against Palmer, and Palmer plays Leicester, which we'll again cover later when we're talking about our transfer plans and captaincy shouts. But the Southampton, the home fixture, the way Liverpool is playing, you'd have to imagine if he's going to play 60 minutes, and he better not play 59. He better play 60. Then he can come off, and I'll be happy with my 12 to 15 pointer.
So what do we think for score prediction? I'm leaning 4-0 towards the Reds. It's in front of the Anfield crowd. I don't think this is much of a contest whatsoever. And I have the armband on Salah because I'm not an idiot, but I'd be shocked if he plays really more than like a cameo appearance. They don't need him to beat Southampton comfortably. So I don't know. I feel like this is the perfect storm situation where Liverpool can squeak a rest for him. So maybe he plays, the first 45 and then gets subbed off. Maybe he just comes on for 25 minutes to stretch the legs. But I also see a very strong chance that he's just rested altogether. I mean, they could put out, Arnie Slot on the right and still have enough attacking gusto to beat them.
Yeah, traveling to Paris to play PSG. I definitely put your vice on Palmer, but we'll see a lot of people play into the narrative if it's a really tough game tomorrow, and let's say Salah picks up a knock, gets hit in the thigh by Hakimi or something like that, then we could see some shifts towards Palmer in terms of EO for captaincy. But either way, even if Salah was out, I'd be happy to have the armband on Cole, and he's going to be pressing. I think that's the one thing we saw in the last match, and we got away with it. Whoever captained Salah, Palmer had a massive XG, 1.3. His XGI in that match is 1.85 or something like that. We got very lucky that he blanked from an FPL perspective, but he did not love his body language. I would say Bucks just he couldn't believe that he hadn't been able to score versus that putrid team. So we'll see what happens. But what do you do if you have Gakpo on your side, for example? I think he's somebody who, especially with all the injuries to the forward lines, you probably just hold Gakpo and hope that he starts this one, right, Peter?
Yeah, that was going to be my next concern. I think I'm not necessarily concerned about Salah. Just he's record chasing at the moment. He's in amazing form. It's the other players around the fringes, like the Gakpos, the Diaz, the Jotas. Not necessarily Darwin, because he seems to be very low in the pecking order there for Arne Slot. But yeah, I'd really be concerned with minute sharing for a lot of those guys, because so much of Liverpool's plays is relied on going down those wings. And I think if you got them, you start them, and you're either hoping that they get their attacking return in the start for 60 minutes, or they get something off the bench for 30 plus minutes there. But yeah, it would be a great fixture for Cody Gakpo owners out there.
Yeah, if you have him, you got to hold him. I know a few people even have Szoboszlai, who they brought in for the double game week in 25, and all of a sudden he's cropped up with a 12 and 13 point haul over the last couple of weeks. So you just start your guys. I wouldn't be bringing any of those players in, but yeah, I mean, this has the potential for double digits for any single attacker that starts. Even Federico Chiesa, he could even come in and score a goal versus this putrid Saints team. So start him with confidence.
He was dead. All right, next game. Let's talk about Leicester at our Chelsea Blues. I also think this is a comfortable match for the home team. Maybe not as comfortable as the Southampton fixture. That was really never in doubt. Let's say 3-0 to Chelsea, and I think Palmer finally gets a goal. What say you guys?
Got to thank the schedule makers for posting these two matches back to back, both at the Bridge. Very fortunate there. And hats off to anyone who went for Nkunku, Cucurella, and his Paella, even went for Neto. All these guys are cheap as chips, and they all delivered in a massive way versus Southampton last week. So if you have those guys, you're obviously hoping for another double-digit haul there. I mean, we haven't seen Leicester score any goals at any time recently, so you would expect a clean sheet potentially as well. So just crazy. People who had Colwill on their benches for at least like 10 game weeks. I know FPL Focal, who has come on our podcast before, he got him in this week for a nice 14-point haul when he needed him. So you start those guys with confidence. 3-0 Chelsea, back-to-back clean sheets. Unless, of course, one of the goalkeepers just decides to be his average bang-on self
Oh, stop
and
it.
let one of those
Stop it.
goals through.
Golly. Peter, you're a
it's
true
bound to
blue.
happen.
You're a true blue. You wouldn't slander your team of preference. What do you think is going to happen in this match? You got a comfortable win for Chelsea?
Yeah, I think this feels like a comfortable win in the Dewsbury Hall Derby, as we're calling it on the streets. And yeah, slight concern that this fixture is coming after the Europa League Conference knockout game against Copenhagen away in Denmark, and I know Parma is in the squad for these from the foreseeable future for the Europa League now, or Europa Conference League, I should say. Really keen to see if he starts, if he plays, if he comes off the bench, because it's something that we haven't had to deal with the entirety of this season, where Parma's had the midweek rest all the time. So just something to keep in mind for managers that really want to take on the beast that is Mo Salah with the Parma captaincy. He could be playing, well, Friday morning for us here in Australia. But yeah, for managers like Brian mentioned before, like managers that took the risk on Nkuku and Neto, like, well done, because you've really targeted these two fixtures to make a lot of hay while the sun is out, and you're off to a fantastic start.
Totally agreed. And that's a great shout about the midweek potential bogey match all the way in Denmark. I think there's a likelihood that based on the way that these fixtures line up, it's really beneficial for Chelsea and for Liverpool that the opening match before kind of a really easy fixture is the away leg. So you might be able to kind of, not show your best version of yourself. Even a draw is probably enough for both these teams to feel really good about their chances to advance with the home leg coming up. But I actually think that Chelsea, the Conference League is the perfect midweek competition for a young team like this, because it's a regular chance to get your confidence back up. So I think Chelsea win both games really without breaking a sweat. With that, let's switch gears. Let's talk about the best matches in real life. And this is a pretty interesting weekend for FPL and for the Premier League table. So specifically, Manchester City are playing at Nottingham Forest. Now, City, we know, have had their wobbles this season, but they're finally starting to looking like, kind of a vintage City from the last couple seasons. And Forest are on this dream run. You already know that the shithousery from the home crowd is going to be at peak levels, as one of Europe's biggest clubs from yesteryear really gives it to the all pomp and circumstance oil money club. So what do we see here? You guys have Chris Wood in your team. Is he someone you're going to be rolling out with confidence? Who's winning this game? What's the scoreline? What are we seeing?
Looking at the bookies odds, City are big favorites in this one. They're out of Champions League. They're out of the FA Cup. Or no, sorry, they're out of one of the other cup competitions. They're still in the FA Cup, I believe. So, look, they're going to be gearing up pretty heavily to take this kind of top four clash pretty seriously. So I expect City to win 2-1. And of course, Chris Wood gets his goal there. So that's what I would think. You start all your players with confidence. I mean, I wouldn't be shying away from playing Matt Sells. City are going to probably take a lot of shots. You just got to play your guys in this one and just hope for the best. But no need to rush and transfer out any of your defenders, especially if you're a longtime holder of any assets from NFO. They have Ipswich in game week 29, so better clean sheet odds the next week as well. So it should be a fun match just to see, especially if NFO can make Champions League next year. Like, this is a type of clash that they've proven to do pretty well in this year. And so we'll see what they can yield for as far as a result.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Forest will be going into this fixture without any fear. Like they've got nothing to fear when it comes to City. They're so leaky in defense this season. We've seen Forest really, knuckle down in defense when they need to. Sort of put aside that 7-0 shellacking they got from Brighton. But yeah, this game shouldn't hold any fears. And yeah, like you said, Chris Wood owners like myself, many people out there. My co-host Andrew calls him the Barland. So it's Barland versus Haaland in this fixture there. But we're also seeing a scenario almost for the first time in basically as long as Pep's been involved in City, that we're getting to this part of the season and City are not facing a massive fixture congestion. They're not in Europe. They're out of the League Cup. They're just used to playing League Cup finals. It's literally just the FA Cup, and all their attention is on making sure they finish top 4, top 5, probably with the coefficient rankings. But it's easier to target City assets for the foreseeable future, like sort of knowing that Pep's forced to play the best 11 he possibly has, and we're not going to really be sweating on team sheets too much.
Totally agreed, but my read is more similar to the first part of what you were saying, because I think Forest take this. I kind of disagree with the bookies. I think this is 2-1. I think City are particularly susceptible to the counterattack with Rodri being out, and they have not been able to deal with counterattacking teams all season long. And that is a Nuno Esperanto specialty. And I think Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, I think Chris Wood, I think you start those Forest horses with confidence. And I actually don't think it's crazy to think about bringing in an additional Forest player in advance of this match, knowing that you also have Ipswich to come in 29. So I actually really like that idea of being aggressive. And it's kind of flowing against the tides a little bit, which particularly makes me excited. Peter, what's your take? You like that shout, or are you getting a little scared?
No, I love that chat, but I want to ask you guys about a player that I've been thinking about a fair bit recently is Marmoush. Now, like many others, we were all facing forward issues, and there's an easy path where I could just easily go Cunha to Marmoush, and that sort of covers me if I'm playing through game week 29, and you get the Leicester fixture in game week 30 as well, if I don't need the funds for an Erling Haaland. But your thoughts on Marmoush as a possible option?
Absolutely love that. That's my planned move this week.
You spoiled
bringing in Marmoush. So you get this 3-game fixture block where NFO away is a tough fixture, but you get Brighton at home, and then you also get the Leicester match, which I think is the big differentiator here. So looking at that transfer in a 3-block window before potentially wildcarding in game week 31 has me Marmoush curious.
I'll take the flip side. I don't think it's a great move to do this game week, but I absolutely love it for 29. I think he could potentially be a great differential captaincy option, which makes it even more appealing. One more match I just want to touch on is Bournemouth at Tottenham. Now, I think this has potential to be the goal fest of all goal fests. Now, I don't think that we're seeing a single clean sheet anywhere close to the Tottenham Hotspur's toilet bowl of a stadium. I think this match has like 6, maybe 7 goals in the running here. I think 4-3 to the home side. I think this could be a shocker and a dandy to watch.
They only lost 1-0 versus City the week prior, and they did a lot of rotating in terms of Ange's lineup as well. So they're getting a lot of guys back healthy. I think Vicario is healthy. They're going to have maybe, Romero, VDV are close. So it could be a little bit closer match. I think this is a 2-1 either way right now.
Yeah, the issue with this fixture that I'm thinking of is that this Bournemouth fixture for Tottenham Hotspur is wedged in between an AZ Alkmaar Europa League 2-legged tie, and
look at that pronunciation. Look at that pronunciation. Very impressive.
Yeah, Peter, you're already guaranteeing that you're going to get invited back when we do a manager of the game week, and it's like AZ Alkmaar. You'll be the one pronunciating that. How about that?
On a side note, many years ago, I used to work. I used to do a little bit of work for Melbourne Sports Radio, and I used to help out with the global football show. So I was used to try.
Oh, very cool.
Learn anyway. anyway, that's off the side. But yeah,
I'm impressed. I'm impressed because we've
thank you.
been struggling with some of our global listeners' name in our free to play mini league where we give out kits to the winners. So that was impressive.
Yeah, Ange has said they're prioritizing Europa League. It's their avenue to get Champions League football next season if they take out the trophy. This is going to be a really difficult two-legged tie for them, and it feels from a Bournemouth perspective, it's perfect. Target this fixture. They've got the fixture against, I think it's Brentford in the blank game week 29 as well. So, I've got Clivert in my side. I would definitely lean into looking at Bournemouth assets. Don't let this fixture being away at Spurs frighten anyone away from investing in Bournemouth.
And let's talk about Bournemouth for 1 second, because I have Dango, and I know Evan Nilsson is now back. He started in the FA Cup. Dango also started notably on the left. Peter, you feel like Dango owners like myself, is that a priority move out, or should we keep the faith for a couple more game weeks?
Yeah, I think it's worth keeping the faith because, Atara hasn't really done that much wrong in his, featuring in the side in a more prominent role up front. I still think that Iraola will find spaces for Atara in that side. And, Evan Nilsson being back in the cup just may mean they're trying to get more minutes into him. But we probably will start to see a bit more of a split in the minutes for the two of them. And I don't think it's not an urgent sell at this moment in time, but it could be down the track of game week 30 or 29.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's
That's great perspective.
You need to hold Dango if you have him and just hope that he's going to start game week 29. You might take it on the chin this week or next week, but it's not worth the transfer out right now. But moving forward, especially with Evan Nilsson coming in more healthy. But there's a world where he plays on the left, Evan Nilsson up top of the 9, and then Clivert in the 10, and then obviously Semenyo on the right. So there could easily roll that lineup out. And I think Dango has proved that his link-up play is pretty solid. So if he can continue to find ways to build up, I don't see how Iraola rests him instead of and plays Tavernier on the left or Brooks. Those guys are not as good as him. So I hope that he can continue to get minutes because I think he's an exciting addition to that front line.
Yeah. Also interesting to note that Christie is injured as well at the moment, who, picked up an injury really recently. So there's probably more opportunities for him to, drop back into that midfield and still feature. So yeah, it's not an urgent issue for Ataro owners out there.
All right, lovely. That's music to my ears as, again, I only have so many free transfers, and I can stomach a -8 hit or two over the course of the season, but hoping not to do it every other game week like I have been of late. All right, I think with that, we can leave game week 28 in the rubbish bin. Let's just talk about some of what's to come and some of the things we know that engaged FPL managers are thirsting for, namely some chatter about kind of chip talk. Let's talk about the upcoming schedule, how best to plan, and just things to note as we now have the FA Cup draw going into the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. So we have 7 of the 8 teams that are still involved, our Premier League teams. We have Fulham playing Crystal Palace. We have Aston Villa getting a cupcake match against Preston North End. Bournemouth play Manchester City. That's bad luck there. And then Brighton get Nottingham Forest. Why this is important is because the FA Cup will be conflicting with the Premier League schedule. So the winners will likely double in 33 and then blank in game week 34. So still a lot to know, and that will be confirmed after the game week 30 deadline. So again, just want to open up the floor. Let's talk a little bit about what our chip strategy is here.
Yeah, and just to regurgitate a little bit of information that I was consuming from the Planet FPL pod earlier, the teams remaining in the quarterfinals, outside of Manchester City, who has obviously won the FA Cup numerous times recently, none of these other 7 teams have won since 1959. So NFO was the last winner of the lot in 1959. So I think they're going to prioritize this match in a big way. And these are pretty close matches. So lots to determine. This basically tells me, because there's no really heavy favorites other than Villa, and especially with Bournemouth and their press and the way that they could cause problems in the midfield for City, I definitely suggest waiting until these results are in, wildcarding in at least game week 31 or later, and then setting up the rest of your chip strategy. But yeah, some really exciting matches to come. And then in addition, you can also pile on that you have other potential double game weeks to come in game week 36 if we have Aston Villa keeping progressing in Europe. So they'll have the FA Cup that they're going to try and get to the final in. Then they also have UCL. So you could see fixtures for Villa, Bournemouth, City as well, kind of move from game week 37 to game week 36. So lots to come. Just pay attention to all those great fixture makers like Krellin and Planet FPL and Lego Mane, and they'll help you navigate this. But things to think about in terms of planning when you're going to use the rest of your chips.
Yeah, just wanted to add, what do you guys feel like? For lots of managers out there will still have the assistant manager chip. I've played it. I know Brian, you've played it. Bucks, have you played the assistant manager chip?
Yeah, this is the first thing I did right all season. Was I absolutely smashed the Ass Man chip. I used it to great effect. 58 points total.
Yeah, so managers that still have that, and they might still have a wild card, a bench boost, a free hit. Would you almost suggest getting it out of the way early, because you don't want to get towards the back end of the season when we're getting all these blanks and we're getting all these doubles, and you're sort of restricted with what you can do. You don't want to almost like pigeonhole yourself to, oh no, I can't use my free hit now because I've got to ride out the Arsman chip for 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's really the wonkiness of the schedule has really worked against managers who haven't yet used that Ass Man chip, because it prevents you from using another chip in that 3-week span. I actually have the reverse perspective. I think probably more powerful to save it all the way for the finish line. Just use it in 36, 37, and 38. You'll have a clear sense of what the table looks like, what teams are on the beach. And I think there will be competition both at the top and the bottom of the table to some degree, where there is motivation for that table bonus, which I think that's the biggest takeaway from the Assman chip. Brian, tell me if you disagree here. But we used very different strategies there. I know you went slot. I went kind of with the underdog managers, Moyes, and then Emery, and then Glasner. And I think I had a little more fun with the chip just because there was that added juice of that table bonus. And I think that's, if it's something that stays, which really I hope it doesn't. I don't think it's a great chip for the purposes of what FPL is all about, which is the players on the pitch. But again, I think 36, 37, 38, there'll be enough fixtures, enough opportunity to chase rank there. And you'll probably have the opportunity to stay with a more standard chip plan leading up to there. So that would be my optimal strategy there.
Yeah, it's very tricky in terms of not knowing the schedule and the possible doubles. Ideally, you're going to get 4 matches in a 3-game week span to use the chip and hopefully maximize your chances at hitting that table bonus. I definitely understand where you're coming from, Bucks, looking at the end of the season when you have a team that's already in Cabo or the Caribbean. They're on the beach. They're playing their second and third stringers with teenagers out there. And then all of a sudden you have a team who's really pushing to prove something. And that's where you see some of these upsets. So I don't mind that. I think especially if we could get a few double game weeks in double game weeking teams in 36, that would be helpful. Right now, I mean, we have the confirmed doubles for Palace and Newcastle in 32. So I don't mind if you're going to look at projecting out a double game week in 32 and 33, and then you're just kind of in a spot where, like, where are you going to use your free hit and your bench boost? It's super tricky. There will be a lot of managers
really wild
who have,
card, because you would want a wild card probably in and around somewhere between that 30 to 33 time frame. Because again, we'll have the doubles confirmed. You'll be able to set up really aggressively. And I just think that you want to have a team set up, and then you could kind of riff off it, or you can freestyle off it with the ass man chip once you already have used those other chips. And I think the temptation is that the other chips will really muddy the waters when you're trying to ass man.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the upside of these chips, triple captain is the least important, so I'm not fussed to use that. Maybe even on Holland in a single game week in 36, if I just prioritize the other chips, you're looking at 10 to 15 points usually for a single game week with upside. So the Assman chip definitely has the highest ceiling. So I would be prioritizing that. We've seen one of our managers and good friends, Lucas Zena. Oh my goodness, he triple captained Salah in 24 for 29 points. Then he had, I believe, Moyes for 14 points or thereabouts. And then he got back-to-back Glasner 40 pointers. So he vaulted his season. He was 80K, went all the way to the top 4K in 4 game weeks. So that's the upside that it presents. And I would definitely be chasing that, especially if you're looking to go for rank. But it's super tough just because we have so many unknowns and how you want to position it. But in terms of prioritizing, we need the double game week 33 to be pretty large. If it's not large, then the bench boost in 33 isn't actually that high of an upside. And therefore, if you had your ass man left, then you could just say, like, look, I'll play my bench boost in a single game week after I wild card, maybe in 35, which I've seen a few people talking about. You wild card in 35, maybe you bench boost in 36 when there's a small double, but you're using ass man from basically 31 to 34 or 33, something like that. So there's lots of ways to play it. We need to get the semifinalists for the FA Cup, and that'll make things a lot more clear.
Peter, do you still have that chip? Is that did you play it already?
Yeah, I played the assistant manager chip on. I went safe. I went with slot for the 3 weeks.
Yeah, good riddance. You and me both, Peter. Good riddance. But yeah, we took 38 points to the bank.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to worry about it. We got other chips to play. But all right. Anyway, let's take a break here. We went heavy in the schedules and the fixture talk and looking into the crystal ball. We're going to take our quick break and come back with FPL community questions and then our transfer plans and captaincy shouts. We'll be right back.
All right, nerds, let's dive back in. Enough of this schedule banter. We're back. Let's get into our listener mailbag. Got some great questions from throughout the hashtag FPL USA community, from throughout the global hashtag FPL community. Brian, whose questions first?
All right, we have questions on strikers. So once again, we have at Barrister FPL, aka Jeremy asking about Cunha replacements. Is Wood the obvious pick, or are there other players with bigger upside? Same with at FPL Wrangler. He asks what to do with Cunha and Dye, Isak frontline, and he has Hall. Wow, he's got some problems. And then at my Cayman fan says, Aussie, oi, oi, oi. Can your guest share his feelings on Chris Wood, since he is a adopted Australian, aka a Kiwi? So let's start there. Let's talk about Chris Wood. And I think you have a phrase that you can share right here, Peter.
If Chris Wood would. I do think that if you don't have Chris Wood in your side, he just ticks all the boxes. He's in amazing form. I think he's either the first or second best ranked forward in FPL this season. And that would mean that you would get him in. You have him for the Ipswich game in the blank game week fixture. He ticks all the boxes. He should be high on your priority list if you don't have him.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think he's the number one option.
With the bullet.
Yeah, especially with Cunha not on the table for captaincy in blank game week 29. Now you're looking at either going for Holland or most likely captaining Chris Wood versus Ipswich. So those are the big factors here. And, other potential replacements. And again, we all have Cunha in our sides. I think Vissa is making a really strong case. His data is very strong over the last 6 matches. He's had a few offside goals being chalked off. He's gotten those matches where he's scored a goal and then gotten 3 bonus points. They will play Bournemouth in 29, so a bit trickier. And then this week they have Villa at home and then Newcastle away in 30. So not like the most ideal fixtures. And for me, I don't have any City players at all on my side. So that's why I'm looking at Marmoush instead of Vissa, because I own Bumo. And so I'm not like in love with Brentford to be hanging 3 goals consistently to have 2 of their attackers in this kind of short fixture run here. But Vissa is definitely a shout. He's 20% owned. He's going to go up. Whereas Marmouche, again, we're looking at picking out a few differentials. He's less than 5% owned right now. So he's a player that you just are betting on the upside and potential and just hoping that he could really help you rise in the ranks.
Yeah, but I think just safe to say we all agree that Cunha is a must transfer out. He's not someone that we can wait and see. He's not quite like cheap as chips like Ndai or Beto is, that you could just kind of stick him on the bench. You need a player in there, especially with blank game week 29. We agree there?
Yeah, now that actually pivots into a question from at Graham Atwell. He wants to know, is Haaland a must own for game week 29? And same from our friend of the show at FPL Paz. He wants to know thoughts on selling Salah in 29 to fund Haaland. So just looping that back to Cunha, I've seen a few people bench Cunha this week and then do a switch of basically Salah or Palmer plus Cunha to fund Haaland in 29. And that's definitely a route if you want to go that way. I personally would rather keep the value in Salah and just take away Palmer from the team, especially because they're playing away against one of the best defenses in Europe, which is in combination with Palmer's poor form. So many ways to play it. I don't think Haaland is essential, but all free hit teams will have him captained. And there will be a majority of players who are looking for that captaincy option that don't trust the low shot volume from Chris Wood to go for Haaland at home versus Brighton. And he's done pretty well against Brighton. He's punished Dunk numerous times and put his ass on the floor. So I think he can probably do the same to shit talking Van Hecke as well. So for me, I'm 100% planning to own Haaland next to Marmouche in game week 29. That's my current plan. Lots to still develop, but I think for captaincy, he's just going to have a really pretty high EO. And then you get him for Leicester. That's the other thing, right? It's like you're taking a chance at captaincy 2 weeks in a row, whereas Salah is going to be playing Everton. Like, still a great captaincy shout, but Leicester are just giving away goals for free. And you're going to get that fixture in 30 on the other side of 29.
Peter, you got a strong take? Will you have Haaland in your team? And also, I'm just curious, if you have Haaland, Brian, that's auto captain? He gets the armband right away?
In 29?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just they've been looking better, and with Nico Gonzalez in the midfield, just a little bit more ball retention, and Marmouche is looking electric, and you just see these bottom teams, and Everton have been playing a lot better. Like, they're gonna,
Sure.
like, I still think Salah will score, get an assist or something in that match, but I've been impressed with what the Crypt Keeper Moyes has been able to resurrect at Everton, unbeaten in their last 6. Basically, I did not see that coming at all. I mean, I think you and I, Bucks, buried him about 50 episodes ago on the podcast. So to see him pulling out the magic for the Toffees is pretty incredible. But yeah, I think Haaland for me is the chalk captain. You can go against him, but I think it's worth. I just don't see Palmer with the upside, so I'd rather use those funds and grab Haaland for 29 and 30.
What's your take, Peter? Are you going to have Haaland in your team for the blank?
I'm still undecided at this point. I'm trying to work out what's best for my team. I'd love to have Haaland in 29, but whether or not I can get there or not, you almost have to weigh up whether it's worth, taking hits to make certain things work and what you're going to lose and what you're going to gain. Also, I'm still not 100% committed to when I'm going to wildcard. So, like, if I got Haaland in, how long does he stay in my side, and until I need to move him out for someone else? But I do like what Brian says, and I agree 100%. Free hit teams in game week 29 that we need to think about, that we're going up against, they're all going to have Haaland in there, and they're all going to be giving the armband to him. So, do you take it on with, a Marmouche possibly, or, do you put your faith in Chris Wood up against Ipswich? Because that's a great fixture in game week 29 as well. But it's just a shame we don't have Cunha, because he's got that. Wolves play Southampton in 29, and in the back of my mind,
captain.
He was my lock for captain for game week 29. It was something I didn't really have to think about, but yeah, everything is on the table at the moment.
All right, that's a nice balance. I'm struggling. I'm not sure I'll be able to afford to bring Holland in unless I'm taking a wild like -8 kind of situation here. I'm Marmouche curious, but I actually think that maybe I'm alone here in saying this, but I think Wood is probably the better captaincy option. That Ipswich fixture, based on what we're seeing from Brighton right now, they're just a altogether much better team than Ipswich are. So I'll kind of just bet on form and fixture. And right now, Chris Wood is going to be my captain when I look at FPL team for blank game week 29.
And then to answer Paz's thoughts on possibly selling Salah in 29 to fund Holland, are we all against that? You go hold the Salah man? What do you think there?
Yeah, I think you're going to bring him right back in on wild card. So I actually think for like a 2-week punt, it's not the worst upside chasing move. I mean, someone in my rank position, I know Paz is having a much better season than I am. I think it's a calculated risk, something that I wouldn't necessarily love to do for a hit. But if you can do it for free, I rate it.
My biggest thing is, are you going to not only move off of Salah, but move off of Isak, where you're going to have anywhere from probably 1.5 to almost 2 million of team value. And then you're going to want at least Isak back for double game week 32. So to lose that much team value, I would, again, much rather sell Palmer in that position and keep the king.
What about if that requires a hit, Brian? Do you still back that calculus?
For a -4, that's the max I would do if you're going to cap Holland and you have a strong rest of your team. I think there are players like I'm looking at I have Greaves and Mikolenko. I don't really want to roll those guys out for game week 29. So if you're going to take a hit and not only bring in Holland, but really find another good starter in your lineup that could do double digit, hauling damage in 29, then I don't mind it. There's gonna be a lot of people taking hits as well, so I'm hoping to gain rank on those people that are, especially if you're gonna be wild card in 31 and very soon. So people are going to be aggressive through this period, and that's part of why I'm hoping to have triple City in game week 30 when most people may only have one of them. So that's my current tinkering right now.
Let's go to our last question from @FPL Hunt, aka Connor. I'm going to address this question specifically to Peter because I know you are undecided on your wildcard strategy. So I think this question is perfect to spring on you. He wants to know if we have any alternative chip strategy ideas. Maybe are we thinking we can bench boost in a different week to open up opportunities to wildcard a little later on in the mix here? Maybe wildcard 33. Connor saying that would allow him to get out of a triple Newcastle situation, who won't have any double game weeks after that 33 situation. Who won't double after their double game week 32 fixtures. You like that plan? You thinking about that at all?
I don't mind that plan. One thing I've always wanted to do, and I've never done it before, is free hit in game week 38. It would be so much fun because you look at the fixtures in game week 38 and the teams like, Arsenal, they got Southampton, and there's some really good fixtures for a lot of teams there where you can just go all in game week 38, throw everything in, try and see if you can do any catch-ups in mini leagues.
Peter, I did that last year and it was a flop. Surprisingly,
yeah, I could
not pick.
It's off the table. Off the table.
I was having a miserable season. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go with just save the free hit all the way to 38," and it did not do what I was intending. I could not pick the right 11. So
yeah, Peter. For context,
it's definitely fun.
For context,
it did not work out.
The season recap episode was like Brian. We had to drag Brian kicking and screaming back to the podcast. He was like finished 600K or something. He free hitted in 38. He was talking about how it was a genius move. He was going to climb the ranks and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. And at the end, he was like, no mas.
I literally got a red arrow on a free hit in 38. A red arrow.
Achievement unlocked.
Very, very hard to do. Yep, that's right. Hey, I entered 420K, my worst overall rank ever, and took a lot of learnings and I'm applying them this year. So at least there's always next season, Bucks. That's the beauty of FPL.
Yeah, we've definitely tried some things as part of this podcast experience. I know I bench boosted in game week 1. I think that was that last season or 2
Yeah, it was last
seasons
year.
ago. Yeah, that worked out relatively well, except for Timber, who immediately got injured. So that was a nice 1-point gift from the gods. Sometimes, especially with chip strategy, there's a lot of research that goes in. Oftentimes, I mean, speaking for more of the casual managers out there, let the content creators do a lot of the hard work, digging and planning, and then just kind of ride their coattails. Make a couple tweaks here and there for it to be, play your own game kind of thing. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, like you mentioned before, like we're going to have a much clearer picture on the rest of this season once we get to game week 30, and then it's probably more of a time to think more about chip strategies, because it's so different for everyone. We've had so many. The assistant manager chip has just thrown everything up in the air this season with when people have triple captained and when people are thinking of bench boosting, and we tend to always put way too much weight on a bench boost. I know I do, and it always fails to deliver. So yeah, don't let that be the be all and end all of your sides. But yeah, just, give your brain a bit of a rest until we get to game week 30, 31.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Some people are talking about if the blank game week in 34 and then the double in 33 are just minimized, that maybe you actually bench boost in 32 when you have just a few assets from Newcastle and Crystal Palace.
Damn,
So like,
I was thinking that. Golly.
yeah, that's something that you might have to consider if the blanks are indeed going to be small. But I'm pretty confident that 33 will be decent. So whether you are going to triple cap, free hit, or bench boost, 33 is like the key double that most people will be attacking. So lots to come. Don't fret about it too much and just save your chips until after game week 30, because that's when we'll have a lot more information in the bank.
Yeah, one wacky idea that I just want to throw in the mixer before we get out of here is maybe free hit in 32. So if you wild card, say in 31, you just ignore Newcastle altogether. Then you free hit in a triple up, maybe get a Palace guy or two. And those teams might not double again for the rest of the season. So that way you're putting your chips in for, that free hit chip I don't think is the most powerful. I would say Assman, wild card, then bench boost is kind of the order of operations.
I disagree. Free hit
You
for me
disagree.
is,
You like free hit.
I love free hit. Like, I think it is very powerful. Assman is definitely the highest ceiling, but wildcard is reduced this year since we can roll up to 5 free transfers. So it's not as important as when you use it. Of course, not you, Bucks. I think you haven't had more than 2 transfers all season, I think.
No,
right?
I had 3, and then I rage made 3 transfers, I think, on deadline day.
Yeah, typical.
That's my strategy.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's we're going long here as we always do. So let's go to transfer plans and captaincy shouts. Let's start with our guest, Peter. What do you got for us, Mr. Sidenet?
Yeah, I'm thinking at the moment I'm either going to roll the transfer to give me 2 for blank game week 29 or switch Cunha to Marmoush. So that's what's on the table for me. If I don't make that move, I'm rolling. I can go into my bench again and sort of hope the soldiers can go to battle for me in game week 28.
Are you going to bring Rodgers? He would be your kind of 7th starter in that situation?
Yeah,
All
probably.
right,
he did play 90 minutes this morning against Club Brugge, so I'm a little bit concerned, although they tend to have that fixture sewn up. But we've seen all season Villa, once they play midweek European football, they're pretty rusty on the weekend. So I'm probably banking on a 2-pointer from Rodgers, let's be honest.
Yeah, I have Watkins, similar issue. Who's going to be your captain in your bus team right now, Peter?
Yeah, it's Mo. It's the Egyptian king, and I'm not overthinking it. I'm just it's been on there the whole time. I'm not moving it.
Fair enough. I think I'm right there with you. I am on solid cap right now. Things could change after their first leg versus PSG, and then we'll figure out what the projected minutes could be. But if he goes through that unscathed, then I assume they're scoring goals. I don't, especially at my rank, I don't need to chase at this point in time and have a number of free transfers. I have 4 right now. I'm in a position of strength. So the Cunha news is annoying, but I can definitely deal with it. I will be moving to Marmouche this week. Like I said to Bucks many times on the pod, I've really diversified my portfolio this season. Shout out to you at FPL Dallas. And I don't really want to have the double up on Brentford. Like, I enjoy watching them, but to have two attackers is just a bit much. So I'm going to go for my first piece of City and really just hopefully nail 28, 29, and 30 with 2 to 3 assets from City now that they're really focusing on getting re-entered into the Champions League next season. So that's my current strategy. We'll see how it plays out.
All right, lovely. I'll go last. Since everyone already stopped listening with my bad advice and terrible season going on, I'm going to roll. I'll have 2 free transfers in blank game week 29. I have Ollie Watkins. He also kind of failed to deliver or make an impact in that Champions League match. And we're coming up for a notable Villa kind of disappointing match, has been the trend coming out of the Champions League competition. So I'm also expecting a 2-pointer, but he might not even have penalties now. So now I have a £9 million problem in my FPL team who's going to blank in 29. I'm probably eyeing up a -8 in blank game week 29, but we'll deal with that when it comes. Armband is comfortably on Mo Salah right now. So I think with that, let's pass the mic to you, Peter. We really appreciate you making time. I know it's sunny out. It looks like it's a beautiful day down under. Right now, it's nice, dark, and wet here in Brooklyn. And Brian, I know you have dinner to eat, but Peter, let's pass the mic to you. Thank you again for joining us on the FPL USA Press Play Pod.
No, thank you so much for having me on as a guest. So it's I've really enjoyed listening to the show this season. The great thing about FPL and the community is you get to meet and interact with so many great people, and coming across the Press Play show, it is heavily in my rotation every single week since I started. I haven't missed out, so I can't stress to the people out there listening, like the show, give the guys the ratings, interact with them. It makes such a world of difference for us.
What a guy.
Us guys out there, putting out content and just having fun. That's what it's all about. So good luck to the both of you for the rest of the season. I know, Brian, you're on for an absolute storming finish to the season. Bucks, like myself, hopefully we could finish off on a bit of a high. But thank you
Peter,
so much.
We're both landing in the top 100K. I won't listen to this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of if it's because of your brilliant free hit 38 decision or if it's because we're getting wild and wacky for the rest of the running here.
Yeah, but
Peter, we appreciate you bringing your Aussie tones and vibes to the pod this week. We chatted before and had some banter. Like, if I was not on this podcast, my handle would be at FPL Cassowary, and we've had some good moments back and forth about one of the most prestigious of animals hailing from Australia. But great to have you on the show, and keep on keeping on, baby. We got lots of green arrows to come, and thanks everyone for listening. Good luck in game week 28.
Peter, one last time, shout out where you and where your co-host can be found, and then let the listeners hear your lovely podcast name one more time, please.
Sure thing. So you can find us at FPL Signet on the X and the Instagram. Give the show a follow. It's the same title, FPL Signet. So give my co-host Andrew a follow too. He's having a really good season as well at FPL_Point Break. And we love interacting with people. We love coming across a lot of other accounts that we're not too familiar with. So just strap yourself in and enjoy the ride.
Awesome. This has been a lovely podcast. Great to have an amazing guest in Peter, another Chelsea fan joining the mix. For Bucks and Brian, this is the at FPL USA Press Play podcast. Thanks for tuning in.